Hello, and welcome to People by People, the podcast that is centered around creative thoughts and actions and what you can do to optimize that. My name is Andrew Bastian, a musician, recording and mixing engineer, and producer. In the first mini-series, I'll be discussing what science, philosophy, and greater culture has discovered, and hopefully give you the tools to do your best work and find meaning in it. Episode 3: Happiness versus Meaning. He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how. Nietzsche. The will to find and fulfill meaning is the basic motivation in human beings. What makes life worthwhile has been a topic of discussion among philosophers, scientists, and spiritual authorities. Is it a life that is happy or a life that has meaning and purpose? Does the distinction between the two even exist? These kinds of dialogues can assist us in deciding where to focus our efforts in order to live the lives we want. This episode will attempt to answer these questions. The fact of the matter is, you probably aren't correctly orientated if your life isn't what it might be, and you're experiencing an excessive amount of meaninglessness, in which case, it is possible to develop self-control. It's a good idea to see how efficient you can become after determining what it is you need to perform. The way people become incredibly productive and hyper-efficient is by finding ways to do their tasks in less time. This level of decision-making and efficiency is key to overcoming the burden of your schedule. How does your state of mind factor in with this? Our ability to maintain mental health is reliant on our societal system. You should be aware of your daily responsibilities. Being able to routinely plan and foresee most of your day gives you the right path in order to succeed. What you desire, what society expects of you, and how we might satisfy those expectations without sacrificing ourselves to the point where we become unhappy, all decide your role in the social framework. This gives you a sense of wider purpose that is not entirely self-serving. Do you ever stop to consider your own motivations? Making choices about our lives and what we want to achieve is tremendously tough. Pressures from society and the environment need us to make decisions fast on the best course of action. We reach a state of flow when we act appropriately and with the appropriate mentality. This is referred to as ikigai in Japanese. Ikigai, which translates to reason for being, aids us in determining what is the proper course of action. On a gloomy, chilly morning, it makes it easier for us to get out of bed. It makes our goal worthwhile and sustainable for humanity as a whole. Ikigai is found in 4 principles. Doing something we're good at, finding something we love to do, the world needs it, and financial remuneration. As a culture, we devote the majority of our time in attempting to correct our shortcomings. Focusing on your strengths and honing them would be a more positive course of action. As a result, we have the chance to excel in one or a few things rather than being average at many things. You should gain from this, but your community and the rest of the world should also gain from it. We must also gain money from our activity in order to make it sustainable and fulfill the principles of Ikigai. The secret lies in aligning our own nature with the nature of our environment to establish an optimal interplay between ourselves and our surroundings, so that our pursuit becomes effortless. Psychiatrist and author Viktor Frankl discovered that the pursuit of a meaningful goal is enough to endure even the most horrific circumstances. Frankl. As the head of neurology in Vienna in 1939, Frankl practiced as a psychiatrist. He and his family were detained in concentration camps after the Nazis closed the hospital. It was there he spent the following 3 years. "Life always has a meaning," said Frankl, even in the most dismal circumstances. Many individuals think that life has no purpose and that we are only the helpless victims of our environment and genetics. This implies that our freedom is illusory and leads to useless notions of nihilism. Frankl writes about his time spent in a concentration camp in the book Man's Search for Meaning, a highly acclaimed and recommended book. Frankl later created a type of psychotherapy known as logotherapy. The Greek word logos refers to meaning, and therapy, healing. Finding meaning to help us recover is what is meant by logotherapy. The pursuit of meaning, in his opinion, is what motivates us. Frankl found that those with purpose in the camps outlasted the physically fittest individuals. Even though they had experienced anguish, the awful incident that had occurred to them had less of an impact on them. They had access to a liberating inner realm of spirituality. The self-transcendence of human existence is what Frankl refers to it as. He describes 4 main ways we can find meaning in our lives. Synchronicity, a purposeful coincidence. Meaningful work, work that brings fulfillment. Through the people we love. Love is the highest goal that we can aspire to. He once wrote, "I now understand how a man who has nothing left in this world can still know bliss." Facing suffering. Even when we're in a situation that feels hopeless, life continues to be meaningful. The capacity to change at any time belongs to every person. Society may have an impact on us, but our willingness to transcend these influences is what defines us as humans. The choice of who we are is in our hands. The last and fundamental human freedom is this one. Let's take a look at a psychology study. In a study of 397 individuals, social psychologist Roy Baumeister and his colleagues looked for connections between respondents' level of pleasure and meaning in life and a variety of other areas in their lives, including their behavior, emotions, relationships, health, stress levels, professional lives, and other activities. They discovered that having a purpose in life and being happy don't necessarily go hand in hand. They also wanted to know more about the variations between the two. Their statistical research sought to distinguish between factors that made life meaningful but not happy, and factors that made life happy but not meaningful. According to their research, happiness, as opposed to meaning, is related to one's health, financial security, and the level of comfort in life, but meaning is not. The researchers narrowed down the distinction between a happy life and a meaningful life to 5 key elements. Happy individuals meet their needs and wants, but it doesn't appear to matter much in terms of living a meaningful life. Therefore, pleasure was connected to health, prosperity, and comfort of living, but not to meaning. Happiness includes concentrating on the here and now, whereas meaningfulness involves considering the past, present, and future, and how they relate to one another. Furthermore, it was believed that meaningfulness lasted longer than enjoyment. Giving to others is the source of meaning. Receiving what they offer to you is what makes you happy. Despite the fact that social ties were associated with both happiness and meaning, happiness was more closely tied to the advantages of social connections, particularly friendships, and meaningfulness was associated with what one offers to others, such as caring for children. Accordingly, those who identified as takers were happier than people who identified as givers, and spending time with friends was more closely associated with happiness than with meaning. But spending more time with loved ones was associated with meaning, but not happiness. Stress and difficulties are a part of meaningful lives. Higher degrees of concern, tension, and anxiety were associated with greater meaningfulness, but lower happiness, suggesting that tackling tough or challenging issues that go beyond one's own or one's pleasures encourages meaningfulness, but not happiness. While not the key to pleasure, self-expression is essential to meaning. A meaningful life, although not a happy one, was associated with acting in ways that allowed for self-expression and caring about culture and personal identity. For instance, having a positive self-perception but not happiness was connected with being knowledgeable or creative. Eudaimonic happiness, happiness linked to meaning, has been linked to a number of beneficial health effects, such as reduced stress reactivity, decreased insulin resistance, which lowers the risk of developing diabetes, better sleep, and altered brain activity patterns that have been linked to lower levels of depression. Adversely, our bodies go into threat mode when we experience loneliness, are mourning the loss of a loved one, or are having financial difficulties. As a result, a stress-related gene pattern is activated, which has the dual characteristics of increasing the activity of pro-inflammatory genes while decreasing the activity of genes implicated in antiviral responses. Our immune systems are proactive. If you have a history of struggles, it will help you become more resistant to bacterial illnesses. Loneliness and hardship were connected to bacterial illnesses from conflicts with conspecifics and wounds from encounters with predators from our ancestors. Conversely, if you are doing well and have a lot of strong social ties, your immune system advances to get you ready for viruses, which you are more likely to catch if you are interacting with lots of people. If meaning is the key to adding value to our lives and the rest of the world, how do we attain meaning? We aim for long-term objectives, carry out deeds that society values highly, for accomplishment or for moral reasons. Because your actions take on meaning as a part of a larger framework, you must look further afield to understand their importance. There is a strong likelihood that you'll also feel delight and happiness during this process. We must always keep in mind that there are no guarantees about our future. Remaining in that flow state necessitates continuously modifying our position in a world that is always evolving. The adventure of working towards a worthwhile objective justifies life's suffering, rather than eliminating it. It is a noble undertaking since you can select what you suffer for, to some extent. Your assured life of pain contrasts with the nobleness of purpose. When we pursue challenging goals, persist, and achieve small victories, we may finally reflect and say, that was challenging, but it was worth it. You're listening to People by People. Catch you next time.